Hag at Night by Keith. I'd like to share my first experience with something I cannot explain. I've never really been a real believer in paranormal activities and ghosts etc. I'm the kind of person who wants it to be proved or experience it before I can truly believe. And this night got me thinking differently. Weird to by niche. This happened on the year 1995, Baguio City, Philippines, summer capital of my hometown. This city was just healing from 1990 earthquake that damaged the city itself and killed a lot of people. My 6 friends and I were walking home after a long day practicing for a dance competition to be held days. They looked real by niche. It was 2002, I haven't seen my high school best friend since we graduated high school, that's 9 years to be exact. When I came home to my hometown Iloilo, my best friend heard the news even before I came. She went to my place and invited me to their town fiesta. Their house changed a lot, and that's Crows and Shadows by Montreal. For quite a while I have been able to see certain signs of a family members passing before they actually do. I can't explain it. My sister has the same ability. Apparently it is an Irish trait. My mother believes us. She also has some of these abilities. This story is not the first experience that neighbors to by Kim Southo. As I left the house for shopping, the wind picked up and pricked a chill on my cheeks. This is fairly typical for Nebraska in December, so I thought nothing of it. I walked about 10 of the 20 feet to my truck, head down and hands in pockets. The only thing plaguing my mind was what was need. My family attracts something everywhere we go by Jenna 5689. I come from a Christian family who believes that there can be supernatural occurrences in this world which cannot always be explained. That said, growing up I had a few experiences with possible ghosts, but I was probably just being a kid, easily spooked. My husband has told me of experiences he ha. Who is Taylor? By Devaz Engel. I am completely baffled by this experience and I would like to see if anyone has any ideas as to what it might be. I've considered the possibility that it may be a residual haunting, but the urgency and the powerful emotions I felt associated to this experience suggest otherwise. My house is fairly drama room by Stubbington. I was always a keen drama student. My friend, Chrissy, and me used to go back there on most nights after school to practice our performance. We used to love drama back then. Well, one day the rest of our group didn't show up, as per usual, after school one time, so we decided to rehearse our Ouija board, a friend in the other world to buy freak tips. It's been long since I posted my first story. Thank you everyone for your help. Kerug. My once-in-a-lifetime experience. There is so much I have learned from him. Today I'll tell the things he told me about in detail. Kerug was a guy just 20 years old when he died. He was betrayed by his best F. Flashing lights and scraping footsteps by Borajost 247. One time in Chesterfield, my cousin, aunt, mom, friend, and I were camping and we were talking about a ghost that followed my aunt around since she was 7. She saw it by looking out her window and seeing a girl that was wearing a white dress. Well, once she finished her story, we had to go to bed. My succubus by SCBSD. I have a succubus. I am allowed to refer to her as pure in public, but she has given me several names by which I might address her in private. She is very real and a constant presence in my life, and I feel somewhat privileged to have her with me wherever I go. Our story, in brief, mine assert. Knocking on the Window by Sherera 1980. I think this occurred shortly before I saw that white blur, a posting I submitted not long ago. Also in the house in which I grew up, my parents still live there. So I need to set this up first. During the day, if you stand in front of the kitchen sink, you see the exterior of a bedroom on the re. Patricia Lawrence by Connie Howards. On my first minor ghost hunt with my 21-year-old brother, we investigated the home of an asylum patient whom committed suicide. Before he sent himself to the madhouse, he reported that he had seen the shadow of a lady watching him through the doorway of the master bedchamber, every night. He had in the presence of two sisters by Minette. I've been living in the same house with my mom and her friend Timmy for 4 years now. I'm only 13 and I'll admit that I do have a bit of an imagination, but I honestly 100% completely believe in what I've experienced. For the past 4 years I've experienced odd things in my house. Pertecue. The Shadow and the Dream Invader by Axel. This story took place on Tuesday, December 2, 2008. I was in my garage watching a movie and talking to a ghost that lives in my garage when something forced me to lie down on the couch I was sitting on. Being caught off guard, I fell without a fight and I saw a shadow on where the attic ladder falls. The people in the school by me 13. I was with one of my friends, let's call her Jane, at about 9:45. It was winter so it was really dark. We were going back to my house so we decided to take a shortcut through a primary school grounds. We had just started walking through the school when I saw a very tall man over by an old Get Out of the House by John Law Armand's mum. When I was 12 years old I lived with my dad in Jennings, Michigan during school nights and my mom in Cadillac, Michigan during weekends and school breaks. One night in December I woke up by falling out of my bed. When I looked up I saw a little boy. He had to be about 6 years old. He was very tall. Empty Little Girl by Charlotte. I've had several strange experiences since childhood and each time I have tried to disregard it as my own imagination. I was brought up in a family who doesn't believe in anything that isn't visible or basically living. The story that I'm going to tell you have happened most recently and then if an orbs and ectoplasm all around me by ghosts here. This is from my recent encounter at the Gate to Nowhere. I wanted to talk about the other things I experienced there. I didn't mention them in my last published encounter. Just didn't have the time or inclination to do so. The orbs followed me everywhere. It started with just a few, maybe if something tried to snatch my baby by Mers. It happened just recently. Monday night, December 8th. We are in the process of moving. I was so tired from packing that I laid down with my infant daughter around 10 p.m. My daughter is 4 months and she is a preemie so she doesn't crawl yet. Around 3 in the morning I was awakened by the sound of Nicky, Dead, Not Gone 3 by Pyro. Last night I was in my room and suddenly the lights started flipping on, off, on, off, on. I looked around thinking that I was sitting on the light remote, but there it was, on the floor, in plain sight. It started turning on and off again, so I looked at my digital clock, but it wasn't turning on. And Night Whispers and Violent Dreams by Hales 3. It's been about a few weeks since I've had my last paranormal experience, but this last Sunday and Monday night I've had something whisper to me while I was in the state between being awake and asleep. Sunday night was like any other school night. I went to bed around 10 p.m. I usually put my cat essay. Scary New Beginnings by Bill Eister. When I was first married, I couldn't wait to move into our first house. It was a 2-story with 3 bedrooms upstairs and an enclosed side porch. It sat close to the highway and it took a while to get used to all the traffic, but in time that was the least of my worries. The first time I felt ill. Through the Wall by Ozzy. Greetings everyone. I feel like I know most of you, having followed your experiences for the last 5 months or so. Here is one of mine that I'd like to share and get some feedback about. This happened approx. 3 years ago. I was sound asleep, a very deep sleep. Something roused me out of my slumber. Possessed Iraqi by Ground Pounder. I served in the United States Army in the infantry with the 101st Airborne. While I was in active duty I was deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. My unit spent most of our time in Mosul, Iraq, in the northern part of the country. Mosul is a very old city. There are sections where All-in Perception by White Buffalo. A friend had asked me for a few recounts of Ouija board experiences, and that got me thinking on perspective. To me, this was a good Ouija experience. I was working with my mentor to find someone. She had a firm knowledge of the board, and had been working with one for over 20 years at the Visit from My Grandfather by Calypso. I grew up living with my dad and my grandparents, so my grandmother and grandfather were always more like parents to me than grandparents. I was very close to both of them. My grandfather passed away when I was 21, and it was a really tough experience for me. I was living with my grandparents at the Voice from the Dead by Jazz Lee. I have 2 kids. These are the ages 5 and 2. My story started when my grandma died in Monterrey, Mexico. My grandma's death was not an accident. Someone killed her and we didn't know who. So my husband, kids, and I all went over there, but I was the only one that got to see her because it was too much. Tezcatlipoca 651 by Mike 823. It all started while I was still in school. I started having weird dreams of a woman standing in the corner of my room with long black hair and ragged clothes and stare at the floor all the time. I would wake up and she wouldn't be there. Few weeks had passed and she had returned again, but I though. My house journal by 9. Sorry S is so long. I have recently begun compiling notes in a journal about my house, then happened across this site and thought I would post what I have so far. My house was built in 1864. From the time we moved into the house we had occurrences. My son turned to the day we moved in and right. Hanging Jackets by Starry Halley. I'm going to be frank. I've never truly believed in ghosts until last night. My boyfriend asked me to come stay with him at his friend's house for a little bit. He had to feed the cat and the dog while his friend was away. Kind of like house sitting. I remembered him saying something to the FF. Was I having sex in my dreams by Staley? I was taking a nap with just me and my dogs in the house. I felt a strange feeling, like someone's hand was going down in the back of my PJs. I woke and looked behind me. It was like I really couldn't see, so I just thought I was having a dream. It was like I was in and out, then felt the hand again. Haunting on South Shore Drive by Mulder 81. This is my last story that I have in my life experience. Unless I forgot one. This story is not my story, it is one of my friends. The same person in the story, Carmen, that can sense things in a house. Hope you enjoy it and hope I can write something new from a new experience. Thank you all for being. Hot Ghosts in the House by Misty. I've had some paranormal or ghost experiences when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and am familiar with them. I was saved by Christ at 22 years old and have not dabbled or messed with them since. I'm now 48 years old. At least not until recently. I've been married to the most wonderful woman. Ghost of Mr. Graham by Ghostseer. Mr. Graham owned a tiny corner market, and he loved all the children who frequented his store. His smile was genuine, and his heart was made of gold. Even though he barely made a living selling his wares, he handed out free candy to the children. Of course, this made the kids want to live at his store. My Dark Figure by Draco. My experience occurred last Sunday night. I was in my bed reading a book for a school, when I heard a large thump outside my door. First I thought that it was my little brother playing a joke, so I opened my door. For no reason in particular, I looked at the mirror that was directly in front of me. No Peace for Rusty by Vox Morchews. I am not an easy sell. Although I am quite convinced that spirits are among us, whether we can always perceive them or not, I still roam this plane with a solid and healthy sense of skepticism. Along with my skepticism comes some degree of psychic ability, especially clairaudio and, as you will see, A Small Bite by La Saluva. My sisters, let's call her Jody, boyfriends, Brendan, Dad, Peter, died a few years back and the whole family was shocked. There have been many occasions, in which I will share later, when Peter's ghost has returned to pay a visit. One night Jody, Brendan and Brendan's mom, Lee, were in the kitchen. Visits from Papa by Jill. My dad passed away just over a year ago and it was very sudden and much unexpected, so it has been especially painful and the shock hasn't worn off yet. 2 years my husband and I remodeled and added on to our house and built a large 2-bedroom apt over the garage for my parents to live in, so until to take her daughter away by Pillay. This incident happened to my paternal grandmother about 15 years ago in 1994, at my native town in Tamil Nadu, India. I was 7 at the time, and lived with my parents and my elder sibling at a different part of the state. It was only during holidays do we visit our native town. All of my relatives and Are There Ghosts? By old_key_home 1047. This has been going on for about a week now, the electronics thing. I live in a fairly new house. My mom has lived here her entire life, and no one has died here, and there was only one man who lived here before her, the builder, and he's not dead. My grandpa died when I was little, but he wouldn't. Hollyweird by Ghosts here. I drove through Hollywood, in record time, and finally found a parking spot. If you have ever been to the area around the Sunset Strip, you know how congested with oddness it is. As soon as I got out of my car, I saw that Worf astride a pink Stingray bike. He had on a Viking helmet. Uncle by username 50. Before my dad was born in 1964, his parents had a baby before him, 2 years before. My godmother told me that there was something wrong with him when he was 8 years old. He got really sick. She said he was like a carrot on a pan. He got so sick that he died. My godmother said that my grandma was Darkness Right Next to Me by Dia Monique. First of all, I'd like to greet everyone on this site since I am a new member. However, I've been visiting this site for several months now, reading the stories and accumulating a great interest in the supernatural. Now, what brings me here is the fact that I have been experiencing a weird white light ascending different times and locations by Rugby Ginn. During my time in the Navy I saw many things, but the 2 events I'm about to write about made me feel the most helpless I've ever felt in my life. September 1994, while stationed aboard the USS Connolly, DD 979, we were the first American ship to sail to Haiti after the riot on the pier that turn. Building a fire by Kate 1389. I went to my grandmother's tonight, 16. DEC.08, around 5:30 p.m. I was with my mother and father. My grandmother had to go to the hospital because she hurt her back, so we wanted to make sure she was doing well, and my mother wanted to make cheese balls for a Christmas party. Since my grandfather my friend's encounter by Truth Be Told. Now this happened from what I can tell to be a couple years ago, when he was about 11 or 12. Anyway, I asked my friend if he could give me more detail, but he said he told me what he could remember. I warn you, I'm not very good at telling stories. So, here we go. My friend Nick, that's him, sigh. Touched by a Spirit by Persoy Shades. This happened a few months ago. I don't remember the exact date as I never really kept record of my sleep. I only told a few people of this experience as I don't like people to think of me as an odd person or that I may be lying. Anyway, just to let you know, the room I'm currently using used to Victorian Flat 3 by Hobby Holly. I had something interesting happen here over the weekend. As posted in Victorian Flat 2, I have moved to a new apartment. If you haven't read it, I suggest you do so. It gives background on where I live and what has happened so far. My parents have a cat named Philip. He actually is mine, boo. My house journal to buy 9. Like I said before, I have decided to keep a journal of our experiences in our home as we are trying to figure out what is going on and the best way to deal with it. This is a continuation of that journal. In the summer of 2006, I had 2 mirrored crosses I had hanging as a decoration on the side. Nighttime Impressions by Gavin Dark. Let me begin by saying I am a believer in beings, or entities, outside of our little bubble we call dimension. This all began once I moved into a different room in my house. I have lived in this house for about 16 years, and until now, nothing out of the ordinary happened to me. I am lucid. White Owls, Ghostly Spiritual Beings by Ghosts here. White Owls. I was never curious before. Now, I am overwhelmed with emotion. To be honest with you, I never gave it much thought, in the past, as to why they follow me. No matter where I go, they are always there watching me. I am talking about white owls. These are incredible white owls, so. There's a monster under the bed by Perseus Shades. This event happened years ago and I was probably around the ages between 10 until 13, but I assure you what I experienced as a kid was pretty horrifying. During this time I had a pet cat which would walk around the house at night, but it would be known it was the cat because she had a Belleroon. Is something in our house? Billy and Jack. Just to get started, a little something about me. I'm a 16-year-old girl from the Netherlands. Lately, weird things are happening in our house. Sometimes I feel a very cold breeze going by my cheek. Our cats avoid places in the house, like some places in my room, like the middle of the floor. The Suicide House by Cat's World. This strange image was captured using a Polaroid instant camera. The photo was taken in June 1992 in Salem, Virginia. The image is to the left of the photograph. Many people have remarked an uncanny resemblance to Charles Manson. The property where the house stands is reputedly haunted. Residents who? EEP, 10 EEPs from past investigations by EEP researcher. In the attached video you will hear some genuine EEP captures that we have recorded on past investigations. This is but a fraction of the EEPs that we have collected. I did not put in the video what we think that they say. I am leaving this up to your own interpretation. I will, however, give a little. Encounters, Feelings and Clairaudience by Mary Zeppelin Winchester. I've been living in an apartment for roughly about 2 years now with my family. I have had experiences, or at least what I think are experiences, related to supernatural stuff. My most persistent feelings is this one. In my apartment, there are 2 doors, side by side, and then there is a long heat. The Man in My Bedroom by Laus. First of all, and my other story, soul surfing, I mentioned that this was my first happening with the paranormal, but I have gone over this in my head, and from other things I have been told I have realized that this is probably my first experience. I haven't had many though. I'm not one of those goes. Fear at the Farmhouse by Spooky Angle 23. I was 3/4 years old and I was living in an old Herefordshire farmhouse. The house was black and white, old and creaky and very old. I remember once being sat in the front room and ornaments would levitate in front of me, pictures would come off the walls, doors would slam. This was the norm for my Ghost Bite on My Inner Thigh by Ghosts Ear. I was unsure what went wrong, but I responded to a story on this site. I saw, second sight, what was going on as I was responding to the writer, but it surprised me when I was bitten. This demonic presence took a bite, and left. I always know I am on the right track when I am attacked. It's Sal. The Christmas Ghost by Osier Dog. Going back to 1988, I was on holidays in a small country town in Australia named Murwillumbah. I was up from Sydney where I was working, actually in a haunted apartment, and I promised to write that one out, too, and was up visiting my parents. We went out to some Christmas do and came back a bit. Spirits Need a Cool Down? By Caitlin. My house is pretty old. I'd say maybe around 100 years give or take. The front part of our house was the house when we bought it. It has now been renovated, has a second level, etc. I think there are some spirits here maybe who have lived here previously and are staying here. There have been. Little Girl in My Dreams by Little Daisy. From the time I was born to the age of 9, I lived in a small house in Denver, Colorado. My family moved into that house a little before I was born. We still don't know what really happened in that house, but my older sister once mentioned to me that the neighborhood once told her that a little girl. Motorcycle Ride in the Rain by Kim Southo. It was middle of August and the harsh wind blew hot and humid, kicking up a storm for the evening hours. Off to the north the black clouds had started to brew and roll. It was about 6:30 p.m. and my date was late. He would not tell me where he planned to take me. It was a surprise. Now, being 30 m. The Laboratory by Kim Southo. Working in and around the medical field since I was 15, I lied about my age to have a job and help my mom. I guess you could say I have worked in just about any type of an office or hospital you can imagine. I have been in large hospitals, small private clinics and laboratories. Each of these Dreams and My Mother by Appalachian 401. I have had many experiences regarding my mother who passed away a little over 2 years ago, but recently there is some stuff that I just cannot figure out. I have had a recurring dream where I have a pain in my left lower abdomen, and it feels as if it's full of energy and about to explode. It's a haunted Victorian house by Hans Rokes. My parents, brother and I were looking to buy a house. My mom and dad looked at an old Victorian house and put an offer in for the house. The following month we received a phone call and a letter saying, "You've got the house you put an offer on a month ago." My parents, brother and I got a big SH. My mom's Uncle Nick by Ghost Freak 14. I don't usually get ghostly experiences. This may be, as far as I remember, my only one, or at least the only experience I can think of at this moment. But honestly and truly, undoubtedly, I believe in ghosts, spirits. This happened when I was in 3rd grade. I was sitting in class doing my work. WHE. Please don't be afraid and let me help you by Ghost Lover 13. I sit at the computer, my heart pounding. Someone or something is making its presence felt. I feel relief to feel the presence of good and know that it is most likely leading to my grandmother, known as Granny. There is something behind you, my frightened friend tells me through our live chat. I guess I am not the only one by Ghost Lover 13. My brother has had a few paranormal experiences himself. The first story that he told me about was when one day he was walking in the hall and he heard something from up the stairs. Our stairs always creak, so I guess he wanted to see who was coming up or down the stairs. He looked at the stairs. Time for Bed Now by Ghost Lover 13. When I was about 8 or 9, I knew something was in our house, but I did not know what. My brother always told me about our granny being in the house. He has seen her before, too. I asked our parents about it, and they said that there were no such things as ghosts. I still did not believe them. My Death Angel by Connie Howards. This is an experience my mom had about 14 years ago. When she was 7 months into her pregnancy with me, she was just sitting on her bed watching the television one evening. She soon drifted off into her sleep, forgetting to turn off the program she was watching. After a few minutes, which seemed violent nightmares that won't stop by Dragos Thunder. I am having these nightmares, I guess. They are so bad that I actually wake up sweating or crying, sometimes even a combination. I think they're caused by the demon in my house. They won't stop. They are usually so detailed that it's like reality. And they won't stop, no matter what. I really want. 21st Birthday Activity by Caitlin. On the 1st of November we had a 21st birthday party for my sister. I had my friend over and we were watching the soccer, Mariners vs Sydney FC, in the living room. If you read my story "Os Need a Cool Down," it'll give you a description of my house, which was in the new part of my house and W. Man in the Window by Graphy. This occurrence happened when I was a younger kid. I was in elementary school, probably about 6th grade. Me, my little sister and our neighbors Brittany and Brandon were sitting in my screened-in porch off of my kitchen of the house. There is a glass sliding door which leads to the porch. My first sighting by Tora Okami 303. It happened around the year 1999 or 2000. Around the same time my grandpa died. It really hadn't hit me he was dead, seeing as I was only 4 or 5. Anyways, I was in the living room of my house. My parents were in the kitchen cooking something rather, I remember, I'm foolish. I don't pay attention to the smell of cigar and the voice along with it by road. Some of you bear with me on my story because this happened in 1994. I might not remember some of it, but I'll do my best. One morning, between 3 o'clock - 3:30 am, I was going back home from an old girlfriend's house, and as I was driving along a stretch of highway, I started to doze off. So I woke up. Our new house by road. My wife and I just purchased an old house last year. It was built in 1887. It's been remodeled and has rooms added. One day when I was doing some car work in the basement, I reached for a screwdriver that I put at hand's reach, but it wasn't there. It was 5 feet away from my hand. So I thought not. Just a few vague encounters by Samantha_Kyles. Hey, I'm Sammy, and I'm 16 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon. I don't know what else to tell you. I suppose I have somewhat of a connection to the supernatural. I believe in all things except for God. Please don't give me any bull because I'm atheist. I actually kind of feel went there. It started off as a laugh by Quasar. This incident occurred in November/December 2001. It is but one incident that occurred after a foolish Ouija board session in a student kitchen in London. A week after the kitchen incident, myself and my friends were just about recovering from the incident of the previous week. We had all agreed, or L. My sister Stella by Ghost Freak 14. My sister Stella is 4 years old now and I am 13. One day my dad and my little brother went to football practice and my mom was at work. So I had to watch Stella alone in our small house. It was around 7:30 at night. We were watching Hannah Montana when suddenly my sister looked at me and asked, "Who tea?" Candle burning black sugar. I knew it was time to do the right thing, so I used the technique that was given to me on this site. I really wanted to complete it sooner, but family problems kind of got in my way. I'm usually the one that takes care of situations that occur on my side of family and my husband's at times. I don't ask. Ouija board and Bloody Mary by Ghost Lover 13. Lindsay, what is this? I asked my older sister. It is a Ouija board, she told me. It contacts spirits. Do you want to use it? Yes. I was very young at the time, only about 7 or 8, so of course I wanted to. How cool would it be? Contacting the dead? I already knew about the ghost. The Hide and Seek Ghost by Xana Brain. My brother and I were going to spend the night at our best friend's house. It was a week before Halloween. Every time we spent the night at our friend David's house, we always stayed up late. It was about midnight when we went outside to play hide and seek. My brother and I ran to the back of the hoe. While You Were Sleeping by Nigirl 777. I have always had paranormal experiences, especially as a child. I have lots of unanswered questions, so I'm going to start with this experience. I was sleeping one night with my husband beside me and I awoke to someone screaming. I was paralyzed. I could not move my arms, legs, neck or head. Forced to Play the Ouija Board by Jennifer Torres. Before I begin with the weird things that have been happening, I would like to ask a question, or better yet get some feedback. When I was about 11 or 12, I was forced to play the Ouija board. Yes, I was forced. I remember it moving by itself and feeling very nauseated. My question is this. Cow. House on French Island by Jaya Malouf. The town that I grew up in is made up of many small islands smushed together and separated by a river. One part of this is nicknamed French Island due to the fact that when the town was settled, the French families mostly settled there in a cluster. I lived in an apartment on French Island there. Lady in White Gown by Sugar. This is actually my second time writing this story. I was almost at the end when my page went blank and it was all deleted, so maybe it was meant for me to write it over. I have been thinking a lot about my past lately since I have had some strange things occurring now. I will be honest, this story. House on French Island by Jaya Malouf. I'm including the description of the house and all of these in case someone hasn't read the first one. When you walk in the main door, you are in a room about 24 feet square. There are 2 doorways on the wall directly opposite of the main door, one on each half of the room. The one on the left is 2. House on French Island 3 by Jaya Malouf. I'm including the description of the house and all of these in case someone hasn't read the first one. When you walk in the main door, you are in a room about 24 feet square. There are 2 doorways on the wall directly opposite of the main door, one on each half of the room. The one on the left is 2. House on French Island 4 by Jaya Malouf. This incident didn't happen in the house but in the garage while we were coming home one night. Our apartment was the second floor of the house. You had to go through the garage to get to both our apartment and the one on the first floor. When you walk into the door at the front of the garage, direct the basement by Ghost Lover 13. I go down the basement steps to bring supper upstairs for tonight. It was a little colder than usual, but I did not think anything of it. I opened up the fridge door and then closed it. I thought I heard something beside me, so I looked. A transparent white human figure walked right through the wall. The 8-year-old Girl by Ghost Lover 13. My father flicked me with a rubber band, so I wanted to flick him back. I ran after him and got him in the arm. "I got you, Dad," I yelled, laughing. All of a sudden, something behind me yelled, "We got you, Daddy." I was so scared. I was only 8. I knew that it could not have come from outside. Back. Random Ghost by Ghost Lover 13. I was sitting down in my granny's old chair watching television. I was also watching my dog, Frisky, outside. I noticed out of the corner of my eye something white underneath the windowsill. It was a white face and it was laughing. I got so scared I ran into the living room. Later on when I checked, was it Grandpa? By Ghost Lover 13. I was taking a nice, warm shower one night. I had the curtain pulled, so no one could see me. My friend walked in to use the restroom. We were talking for a while, when we heard a loud crash. We have a basket of shells in the bathroom that my mom uses for decoration. All of a sudden, it fell in F. Something touched her leg by Ghost Lover 13. My friend and I were so bored that we were playing board games. No one was home but the two of us. We were sitting there for a while and we were about to stop. I sensed that something was there with us, but I did not want to scare my friend, as she was terrified of my house and of ghost/spirit/D. Who was in the picture? By Ghost Lover 13. My friend and I did not have a digital camera, so I bought a disposable one to take pictures on. My friend and I took many pictures, but never one together. "Dad, will you take our picture please?" I asked my father and he said yes. He took about 2 or 3 pictures of us. A couple days later, W. Paranormal Healing? By Beavis. I have many stories, one of which I am, almost, dying to share. But I will write that next time. This happened while I was in a pub known as the Angel Inn, which is not too far from London, south side of London. Addington, I think, to be precise. A beautiful pub, the place I had undertaken my Ghosts in My Residential Hostel by Karen 5070. This is my scary experience when I was studying my undergraduate course in India. It was the year 2003, I was studying in Andhra Pradesh, a state in India. First let me describe the hostel I was staying in. The hostel is isolated from the city and has to one travel about 40 minutes in the outskirts. Great Grammy Agnes by Jai Malouf. This did not happen to me, it happened to my mother. My mum and my Grams, her mother, have always told me that my great Grammy, Agnes Graham's mum, always looked out for my Aunt Patty, Mum's older sister, when she was younger. Great Grammy died a year before Mum was born, when Aunt Patty was about 12.